Awesome. Thank you all for being so lively in the chat already. We're so happy that you're here for our For Teachers by Teachers session, focusing on data-informed teaching made easy on formative. I'd love to get a quick pulse check as to where we're at with our familiarity on formative. So go ahead and write the correlating number in the chat. I know my head is covering number 5, but formative certified educator is a number 5. So if you're new to formative, go ahead and type in a 1. If you've logged in and explored the platform, a 2. If you've created and assigned an activity on formative, a 3. If you've reviewed reports and analyzed student data, a 4. And if you're a formative certified educator, flaunt it in the chat. Awesome. Thank you so much for your participation. I'm seeing numbers across the board. We have a few formative certified educators with us today, and some of us are also new to formative. You're all in the right place because you're going to get a chance to hear from 2 incredible educators on how they use formative in class. My name is Cara, and I am a customer engagement marketing manager here at Formative by Newsela. I'm a former educator myself. I taught 4th grade. I also taught in an inclusive classroom. So one of my favorite parts of formative is the fact that there are so many ways to provide accommodations within the platform. One of my favorite features of formative is the ability to respond and ask questions in audio, but there's a lot more ways to engage with students in a variety of ways to meet the needs of diverse learners. You'll get a chance to hear from a variety of teachers today, not only from me, a former 4th grade teacher, but those teaching in high school and a computer science teacher. As you're following along today, I highly suggest that you take a moment to log in. You're going to get a lot of ideas from these teachers on how they use formative. And I know already you're going to get pretty excited around practicing using some of these features. So when you go to app.formative.com, you can log in with your school or district credentials. And if you're new to formative, don't have an account yet, right under that blue bar where it says login, go ahead and click new to formative, and you can create an account and follow along that way. While we're here, I just want to take a moment to recognize that our chat is a place to ask awesome questions that you might have along the way, or to share, takeaways or learnings that you want to try in your own classroom. We have chat support here, and if questions take a little extra time to respond, or we can't always get to all of them, but we'll do our best, we'll also be providing a sheet for you to share your information so we can follow up with you later. You'll see that sheet here as well. Now, in this session, you'll get a chance to learn about data-informed instruction. That's my quick overview of the formative product before diving in and hearing from the real teachers from real classrooms on how they use formative. With learning from the teachers, you'll get a chance to get a wide variety of practical tips that you can actually implement to really support that data-driven instruction for this school year starting day 1. Now, let's take a moment to dive into data-informed instruction. On formative, it's a one-stop shop. You're able to instruct, assess, and adjust in real time. So another one of my favorite parts of formative is the fact that you can use formative to ask instructional questions, get real-time data, and then be able to reflect on that data that you've gotten to then figure out how to assess or instruct the following week. That kind of cycle, that cyclical cycle, is going to be really helpful this school year. So you can really live informative to provide instructional techniques as well as assessment. There's a few different ways on how you can use formative. And I do promise in just a moment, you'll get a chance to see the teachers walk through the platform, and you'll see some videos, so you'll see how this all plays into formative directly. One way you can use formative is in daily instruction. Think bell ringers, or do nows, exit slips, and more. So you can continuously instruct in engaging ways. Another way to use formative is in classroom assessments. At the end of a unit or end of a semester, you can assess your students and see where they are. And you can also use formative for independent student practice. One of the tools we have here at Formative is a flashcard system. So with practice sets is what we call them, you can actually build in flashcards, matching, quizzes, and gamify learning independently. Last but not least, you can use formative to collaborate with PLC and departments. So you can connect with your grade level team or across your school to share resources, not have to reinvent the wheel, and make sure that you're all meeting your goals, standards aligned. I'm so excited to introduce our teachers today. We'll have not myself, but another Cara. I don't meet many, but I've met Cara. Cara Cisco, you'll be hearing from, as well as Lewis Clemenson. Cara Cisco is incredible. She uses formative in a really unique student-paced way. There's two different ways to use formative. One is to present, and guide whole class. And another is to provide resources for students to complete at their own pace. She likes to use it that way. She'll also walk through a variety of question types, and you'll get to see real examples of her explaining how she uses formative. Quick background before I show her. She is a ethnic studies teacher, and she uses formative in a very culturally responsive way to support high school students who did not pass social studies courses. She also supports not only culturally responsive, but UDL aligned design too. So you'll see a wide variety of ways that she meets students' needs. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton over to Cara so you can hear it from her.
Hi there, good morning. My name is Cara Cisco, and I am a curriculum designer and social studies and ethnic studies teacher for St. Paul Public Schools. And I have a very unique job and also a very unique use case for formative, because I design and help implement our entire credit recovery program, write the curriculum for it. We do all of our high school credit recovery in-house. So what that means, if you're not part of the high school world, is that when a scholar does not initially pass one of their required social studies classes, then they are enrolled in the credit recovery program. And instead of using like a curriculum that's already been designed, we like to create everything in-house based on our students and their backgrounds and the scope and sequence of our classes, what our teachers are doing, just more specialized to our schools. And in addition to which, using formative enables us to embed like a lot more scaffolds and supports and things that are designed in order to help students along the way. We design a few different types of courses, but very, very proud of our 9th grade world history credit recovery courses. 9th grade students are a little bit unique in the credit recovery world because they're less motivated by graduation, as you might imagine. And one of our major goals is actually just like hooking 9th grade students back into school. So the 9th grade courses that I design are thematic for world history, and I design them fully with informative. I'm going to show you just the a few of the units in one of our courses, and I'm also going to show you just how we leverage formative also in the tools within formative, because our courses also need to be offered in a manner that is asynchronous if they need to be. Let's take a look. This course that I'm showing you right now is a thematic course, and the essential question is, who invented soccer? All built within formative. This is all designed by me. And then we're using some of formative's embedded tools in order to present some reading assignments. And so there's some information about Suju in ancient China with questions on the side, and then got Episcuros in ancient Greece, Harpastum in ancient Rome, all of these potentially the origin of modern soccer, and some follow-up questions. And then there are some embedded resources within formative that scholars can access if they choose to. And then finally, the assessment at the end of every single one of these units is that scholars are making an argument for who they believe invented soccer, and then providing evidence for that argument. But you might be wondering, in an asynchronous program, how do we prevent scholars from doing things like just copying and pasting things from ChatGPT? We are able to add a couple of things into thanks to formative in order to prevent some of that. So for instance, right before scholars explain their evidence, you can see there's this multiple choice question that first reminds them of some of the tools that are available to them, including videos that we embed in the questions in order for some extra help. There's some hints, because formative has also embedded hints, which I love. And so this is a reminder that they can find some help in the hints too. And then there's this graphic here that reminds scholars of some of the things that they can and can't use ChatGPT for, because of course brainstorming or wordsmithing things is one thing, but we just don't want them to use for copying and pasting or generating entire assignments. And then before scholars complete any like longer writing assignments, they click yes or no right here, and it's just like a little just check before they keep going. I also leverage formative's built-in answer choice explanations, as you can see. So if they click no, it prompts them to go back and read it again, and then it says yes. It says great, keep going. There's 4 other thematic courses in addition to this course, again with the essential question, who invented soccer. For instance, with the early world history standards in mind, I've designed this course that's centered around the topic of coffee, with the essential question of whether the story of coffee is a triumph or a tragedy. Looking at, the Industrial Revolution, imperialism, World War I, World War II, globalization, etc. I've got this course, does the global North or the global South climate reparations, which is the essential question. And a student favorite, looking at some of those later standards, World War II into the Cold War and the globalization that followed. There's this course of why is K-pop so popular today is the essential question there. The point is that we're able to design these like very dynamic, interesting, fun, cool, helpful for students, self-paced, asynchronous, culturally responsive, and most importantly accessible, and with a universal design for learning model to leverage things like the embedded reader, hints, scaffolds, sentence starters, all of the things that we like, that we do to support our scholars, and offer that because of formative. And so I'm glad I had the opportunity to show you that, and good luck. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I love looking at the chat and seeing how excited we are about everything Cara just showed us. Some things that stood out to me is the fact that she guides her formatives with an essential question. So as you're thinking about how to prepare for your school year with formative, kind of guiding the content around an essential question can be really beneficial, like Cara showed us. She also uses a lot of embedded tools. So I'll walk through a couple different strategies on how to build a formative like she made. And then Lewis very shortly will expand on some more question types as well. As you saw, as she was flipping through her asynchronous course, Cara showed a side-by-side view. So students can actually see text and then questions on the other side. It's very similar to how Newsela is structured as well, if you have Newsela too. And it can be really helpful for students to be able to go back to the text to find evidence, to then answer questions. And then choosing a variety of question types is really great for that higher impact learning and compelling, engaging kind of thought process when connecting, especially in an asynchronous course. But you can also think about how this would be beneficial in a classroom setting live as well. So let's take a moment to now walk through a couple different question types you saw Cara use. One is the video with embedded questions. So on the top right-hand corner, when you've logged into Formative, you can click on Create a Formative. From there, add a question type, and you'll see over 20 different versions of questions. One is this one, this is video. I've brought in a video from Generation Genius just to showcase you can use Formative in science as well. You just kind of bring that little toggle over and you can pause and ask any question, any type of question. It could be a true and false, a response, an audio question. You're welcome to add a correct answer, have students show their work, make it required. Cara mentioned she uses hints as a way to encourage students to, get to the right answer. And then I'm showing a quick preview here. So once you've done the steps of adding the question in, you'll get a chance to see in the preview button on the right-hand side how it looks on a student perspective. Another, and just again, expanding into how we can use math in Formative too. Another question type you can include is our fill in the blank option that you saw Cara use. So you can add in a question with fill in the blank and then have a correct answer that students will need to get to. Again, you have options, you have autonomy as an educator, and you can, again, add a hint or include a rubric, make it standards aligned, etc. So these are just two ways that you saw Cara embed a variety of questions into her lessons. And I have a feeling, because our focus is really practical learning, that those watching today, you're going to get a chance to think, okay, I could use fill in the blank if I'm teaching math, or I could use video with embedded questions if I'm teaching, sure, also math or science or ELA or social studies like Cara. Cara also uses Formative in a daily instruction environment. If you remember, I walked through several different ways to use Formative, and she uses it in an asynchronous, self-paced way, which is one way you can use Formative. You can also, if you see on the top corner, there's a green button and a blue button. The blue button is assign, self-paced, and the green button is present, whole class live. So there's some options on how you can implement based on your students and how you teach in class. There's also embedded purposeful AI tools throughout. So when you're going to add a question, we showcased here that you can add a question or content. If you see other options, although we don't have time to dive into them all today, I do highly suggest that in your own time, you explore our PDF parsing, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, but you'll see an upload your own file. If you have stacks of papers laying around from previous years, like for test prep or just ones that are tried and true, you can actually upload those PDFs and turn them into formatives where students can engage directly with those questions without you having to rewrite or retype everything that was printed out. There's also some more options you can explore too. I'm now very excited to pass the baton over to Lewis. Lewis is a computer science teacher, and he lives in the UK. He loves supporting fellow educators, and the way he'll be showcasing Formative today is he'll be walking through a little bit more around like 4 different question types that you haven't heard of yet. And then he takes a moment, midway through to reflect on how he actually created those step by step. So again, to make this as practical as possible, when you follow along, you'll see the end result first, and then you'll see the steps on how he created those resources. With his video, you're going to get a chance to really see how you can use a lot of visuals in creating a formative that can make content really accessible to students, provide some flexibility in your assessment design, and just overall make this engaging with real-time data, which he'll also tap into. Now I'm going to pass it over to Lewis to walk through 4 more question types on formative.
Hello everyone, my name is Lewis. I'm a computing teacher based over in England, and I'm just going to share with you today a nice quick way to include images within your formative questions, just to make them a little bit more engaging compared to a traditional worksheet.
So here we can see what we're going to end up with when we add images to a formative. So we have got a lovely drag and drop, so you can drop in the images, and hopefully if you put them in the right place, students will be able to see where they go. We have got a reorder the question where students can see the pictures in order, and they can click and drag to change the order that the pictures appear in to decide which way they go. There is a how are you feeling well-being check. So this is something I'd often use at the start of the day just to find out how students are getting on, and then they can just tick underneath the emoji that they feel like best represents them. And then the last one is a thumbs up, thumbs down style question. So often I can also use this for true or false type questions where students can just click which ones they want to choose. Now, the nice thing about using images is a lot of the question types we can still mark up as having a correct answer, particularly with the hotspots where they are choosing where to click on an image. And just like you may have seen before, from the teacher tab, we can click on individual student responses, and we can actually see which ones they are getting correct, how they are reordering them, and with the hotspots, which one they have chosen. Now, what's nice about my thumbs up, thumbs down is if I choose that one of these thumbs up is the correct answer, I can also just see very quickly a quick overview who has put thumbs up, because that is showing as green for me, who has put thumbs down, which is showing as red. Now, the other reason I like to use images, particularly when I want them to pick one of several options, is if along the totals I click on a question number, so I click on number 3, it will actually show me all of the student responses one at a time, and I can just wheel down with my mouse and have a very quick look at seeing what we have put. So I can see that quite a few of these have put the first smiley face, and I can see 1 or 2 put here with the sunglasses. So for me, it's nice, quick, easy to check, and for the students, it just takes away the reading and needing to check it all, mixing up with a couple of images. Now, putting together a formative using images is super easy. So here we can see a blank formative, and I'm going to go ahead and add a question in here. The first question that we saw was a drag and drop, which I'm going to put in, and I was putting it onto an image. Now, you'll notice I've got my images all saved and ready to go. And for this one, I put them onto a roadmap image. So I'm going to load that image in, and that is added. And then I can click on the image where I want draggable objects to be able to be placed. So I might want to put a house here. I might want to put a car over on the road over here. And then at the bottom, I can add in my draggable items. So I can very easily add extra content to the draggable item, and I can choose an image. Now, the nice thing about using formative for images is I can also just paste an image straight in rather than having to upload it if I had it on my clipboard. So it's very easy to add, very easy to do, and then you can just drag in where the correct answers will go. The second question type I had was a reordering or a resequencing question. And again, into here, I could copy and paste an image in, but I'm going to go over here and choose to add an image. And for my reordering, I had my how to make a cup of tea. So I can add the image in, I can add the second step. So I'll just add in 2 of them just so we can see what it will look like. There we are. And you notice these are quite big, so it's very easy. You can just click and drag on the side of the image and it will go smaller just so it's a bit easier for the student to see them all in one go. I could change where they appear in terms of that, but I'm going to keep them over to the left. Yes, over to the left for now. And then the last type of question type we saw was what we're calling a hotspot. And it was a hotspot onto an image. So the first image I had was the emojis. I have put in the squares as a background on the image, but then I am going to draw using up here a rectangle as my options. So I'm going to just draw over those. So 1, 2, and 3. And then the students can select them. I could choose multiple selections. So if I wanted them to choose more than one, they can select multiple squares in one image, or they can just choose one at a time. And the last one was a second hotspot, but this was using the yes/no image that I had, which looks like this. And for this one, I used a circle hotspot. And I just dragged the circle over the image just like this, nice, quick, and easy. And then I decided that if they chose the yes, I'm clicking on that, I'm saying that is the correct answer. So that's how quick it was to put together. I can just check if I click on preview and it'll pop out. I'll see how a student views it, which is how we saw it earlier. And I'll just go through, make sure that I'm happy with it and make sure it is fully working. Lovely. Well, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
How amazing is that explanation on how to use some more question types on formative? I'm seeing some notes in the chat as well. And I just wanted to do a quick note that we saw one way that you can use data from Lewis's perspective. And I want to shout out Sarah as well for showcasing that there is another way to view this data. So as you go and explore, there's multiple views to kind of see at grander scale or dive into particular student outcomes. So you have some options. Now, something I loved Lewis did is he showcased ways to use formative not only in content areas, but also in social emotional learning ways as a bell ringer, do now, kind of gauge where students are at. I also love that he gave examples on how to engage, instruct, and assess students all in formative. So as you're listening in, there are so many ways to instruct and assess. It's your one-stop shop here at Formative. Now let's do a quick reflection. With that classroom assessment, like you saw with Lewis, you can choose from a variety of technology enhanced item types, and you can see the student responses in real time. When I say real time, you can actually see responses as students are typing and get that data, just like that. This information is standards aligned, and you can also build in student accommodations. So more question types include audio, video, you can provide hints. You can also provide alternative student accommodations by student in our settings too. The targeted timely feedback makes such an impact with students. And if you were joined on any of our other sessions, you've learned how important it is for students to get feedback right away. That can be really helpful to make sure students are on the right track, being challenged and supported appropriately. To add on to what you heard from Cara and Lewis today, they provided a lot of great information, but one more way you can also use formative is with our independent student practice using our practice sets. So on the top right-hand corner, when you go to formative and you press that create button, You can press create formative like we showed. You can also press create practice set. There's a variety of engaging modes to connect with your students and have students learn, multiplication tables, vocabulary, and more. The modes included are flashcards, matching, quizzes, and writing. Using these can be impactful, purposeful AI tools to empower your teaching each day. Someone in the chat also mentioned that a takeaway they have already is the fact that you can collaborate on formative. Instead of reinventing the wheel, you can actually build and share these assessments and instructional tools with one another. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But one resource that's worth noting is our shared library. So again, on the platform, you can see in this image here that highlighted on the left-hand side is library. There are many pre-built resources that you can dive into and use right away. You can just search by relevant topic or grade level to find those resources. And when you use them, you can create a copy and make any appropriate updates or edits that you need. When collaborating, it's simple. Just click on the 3 dots next to a formative you've created, and you can add collaborators right there and share the link. So I could add another 4th grade, for example, teacher's email and allow them to edit and assign, or just assign if I want to make sure nothing is changed in the formative. Can then just send the link and ta-da, that's it. Now, I know we've gotten a lot of information from multiple teachers on how to use formative practically in class. I now want to kind of round out the session by walking through some routines to build stronger outcomes. And I'm not just saying stronger outcomes, there's a reason for that. With our ESSA Tier 3 efficacy study, there's a direct correlation between formative and reading achievement. So as you can see here, the more questions answered on formative, the higher the average SAT reading and writing score is. So if that's not incentive enough, based on all the other tools and strategies you heard from teachers already, I'm not sure what is. And don't be fooled. If you are a math teacher, you're not in the dark. We also have an ESSA Tier 3 efficacy study supporting the more numeric question types on formative is also linked to greater math achievement. So do know that you can use formative across all subject areas. And throughout this session, you got a chance to see examples in ELA. You got a chance to see examples in social studies, especially from Cara. Examples in science, when I included the Generation Genius video with embedded questions. And math, when I showed fill in the blank as a tool that Cara also used. And even not as instructional tools like SEL to really build connections in class like Lewis used. When you're reflecting on how to now take everything you've learned and build it into your routine, highly recommend thinking about how to use formative in a routine setting. That can be helpful for students to know expectations and for you to have kind of a set organization on how to use a platform because it's a one-stop shop, everything is in one place. So one example is a Monday through Friday and I'll walk through this. On Monday, you could introduce a new topic, could create and present a lesson that you created or embed Google Slides, videos, audio, and more. And yes, when you go to create, you can also embed Google Slides, but let's learn one thing at a time. On Tuesday, you can check for understanding. This is a great way to review student responses, from where they're at with introducing the topic and ensure that all of the questions are standards aligned. On Wednesday, you can reinforce skills, give students some autonomy to create their own practice sets, like those flashcards I showed you. On Thursday, you can take a moment to assess with a standards aligned quiz with a variety of question types that you've learned today and monitor that progress in real time. And then on Friday, take a moment to review. Look at the data that you have presented in front of you and see, what do you want to add on? What do you need to reteach for the following week? We're also excited that you're here and want to give you a bit of a gift, which is our routine building activity for getting started this school year. The best way to learn a platform for those who came in at ones, and especially students who may be less familiar, is by practicing in a fun way. For those who came in at 2s, 3s, 4s, or even 5s with their understanding, this is a great tool to engage students and make sure you know when their birthdays are from day one. So in this routine building activity, there's 2 ways to find this content. One is we'll share it in the chat so you can just go ahead and make a copy. Alternatively, you can go to the library on Formative and type in "welcome back, getting to know you," and you'll have built-in questions you can make a copy of, edit to your needs, but it's a great way to get to know where your students are day one, anywhere from their birthday or what would you do with $1 million, questions like that to spark conversation. We also have purposeful AI tools that are embedded throughout Formative. With some of our AI-generated content and PDF parsing, you're golden for the school year. Any tools that you've already been using, like Paper or other resources like Google Slides, can all be embedded directly into Formative. Now, I'm very, very excited to introduce you to Luna. Luna is the cutest astronaut I've ever seen, and you'll start to see Luna popping up all over Formative to support as an AI-powered teaching assistant. Luna becomes live tomorrow, July 31st, and Luna will be able to support you in embedding, real-time supports in the easiest way, and I'll show you here. It's super easy to create bell ringers, exit tickets, and more by using Luna. Luna is essentially like an AI chat that you can collaborate with to make formatives without having to go into each question type, although you may want that autonomy as well. So look out for Luna. Now I'm going to share some resources and next steps to keep the momentum going and to keep us excited this school year. When you're getting started for the school year, we have a plethora of information ready for you. Just to keep things simple, we'll share with you in the chat our Getting Started Hub. Inside this landing page, you'll see a variety of resources to get you started, from videos to resources to content with getting started checklists and more. Also, we highly suggest that you subscribe to our monthly newsletter to get access to our monthly calendars and more. You've all done such an awesome job joining today. If you're interested in joining future sessions or want to share out sessions or workshops to build professional development with your school, we'll also share our events page in the chat for you to take a look at. Now, as you're reflecting on this session, you've learned a lot of new content, I'm sure. You can continue the learning with our Formative Foundational course, which is a 30-minute bite-sized PD to get certified, earn a badge, and practice more on your own. Or you can become a Formative certified educator and a leader within your school. Have fun with Formative. As you can tell, Cara and Lewis definitely have fun and really enhance their learning with formative. So I highly suggest that you give it a whirl today and reach out with any questions you have. Now, with digesting all of this information, I'm now going to ask you a question to take a moment to now reflect. After hearing from our educators today and some of our new updates, what's one takeaway you can bring into the school year? This could be something you've learned, something you didn't know existed, something you're just simply excited about bringing into the school year. Go ahead and write this in the chat. I'd love to learn from you. I know it takes us a moment to kind of collect our thoughts after hearing so much information. You can think about some of the different question types that you've heard, the AI-powered tools, maybe even Luna, Cara and her credit recovery program, and Lewis with walking through how to create all the steps in assessment. All right, we're starting to get some ideas in on takeaways you can bring into the school year. Real-time data. Yep, you can get data. You can see your students type. That's the crazy part. The PDF parsing. Yes, absolutely. I know I didn't get a chance to show it today, but it's pretty intuitive. All you need to do is create a formative and add in PDF parsing. Oh, yes. Excited to see what Luna can do for differentiation. There's so many ways to differentiate for students and also with independent student practice. I know Luna is so exciting. Not only is Luna very adorable as an astronaut, Luna is filled with knowledge that Luna is ready to share with you starting tomorrow. So log back in tomorrow. The accommodations for diverse learners. Yes, the audio is one example and providing hints, but there's also way more accommodations for you to explore as you look into the question types. And creating lessons directly on the website. Yeah, it's all built in. You can really use formative for everything. Differentiation as well, bringing awareness to how regular use of formative increases both math and reading achievement in students. I completely agree. Sometimes having that actual data can support habit building in teaching. Immediate feedback, looking at the resources we provided, like the Getting Started Hub and more. I'm seeing a lot more like videos, and I would love to be able to read them all out loud. I've so appreciated each and every one of you joining today. I hope you have a wonderful day and an even better school year ahead. Have a great day, everyone. Bye. Thank you.